Who do people say that I am? What about you? Who do you say that I am? These are two very important questions. Jesus begins with what others say about him, what the world thinks he is, or who the world thinks he is. Then he narrows down that question to the disciples, so that the response that they give becomes personal and not what others say, not what the world out there says Jesus is. Who do you say that I am? Quite right, the world out there says I am one of the prophets, or as you say, I'm Elijah, come back to life, or I am anything, whatever the world say that I am. But the most important question of these two is, who do you say that I am? Because then the answer becomes personal. And when Peter responds on behalf of the disciples, or seemingly on behalf of the disciples, Peter is giving a personal testimony of who he thinks Jesus is. And he says, you are the Son of God. If Jesus had taken time to ask each of the disciples, he would be surprised that he would get different answers from them, because each one of them probably knows him differently. So Peter is not really speaking on behalf of everybody else, because each one has a personal relationship with Jesus. Each one has a personal encounter with Jesus. This is what Peter thinks Jesus is. But what about me? Would I also share in the response that Peter has given? Or maybe I have a different answer? Or do I even have an answer at all? Because if I don't have a relationship with Jesus, I wouldn't know who Jesus is really. I would just say what others say. But from deep down in my heart, an answer that would be motivated and determined by my relationship with him, if there's no relationship to talk about at all, then I wouldn't say anything. I would remain quiet. So it is important for us to develop a personal relationship with Jesus, for us to be able to tell the world who Jesus is. Otherwise, we'll just be moving with the crowd without having that personal relationship. You just go to church, sit down in that bench, you follow Mass. At the end of Mass, just like everybody else, you also walk out, you go back home. In the end, it becomes routine. It becomes one of those things that you do in your life. And you become accustomed to going to church on Sunday without having made an effort to have a personal encounter, so that when you are seated in church, it becomes a personal thing. It becomes a personal encounter with the Jesus that you go to receive, that with the Jesus that you go to listen to. It becomes personal. But many times we want just to belong to the church, because everybody is encouraged to belong to a church. Everybody has to belong somewhere. So I should also belong somewhere. But if Jesus was to come today and ask each member of the church who they think Jesus is, maybe just very few would say who Jesus really is. Others would just be scratching their heads because they wouldn't know what to say at all. So who do people say that I am? Fine, this is what others say. But what about you? Who do you think I am? What did you say about me? The response has to be personal. And if it has to be personal, then it should be determined by a relationship that one will have developed with Jesus. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what to say at all. Amen.